Hi, fourth graders, and welcome to Math Workshop. Today, we are going to be focusing on generating and identifying patterns when using rectangular and square arrays. But before we do that, let's get started on our math message. On a piece of paper, build the following arrays: a 1 by 2 array, a 2 by 3 array, and a 3 by 4 array. Once you build those arrays, I want you to think, what patterns do you notice in your arrays? Pause the video and try to build these arrays. Once you're done, press play. Okay, so when creating our arrays, you probably created something similar to this: a 1 by 2 array, a 2 by 3 array, and a 3 by 4 array. But now let's think, what patterns do you notice in your arrays? Well, some patterns that I was noticing is that they're all rectangles. I was also noticing that each array has an even number of dots. And the last thing I started noticing was that each array adds a row and a column every time it increases by a number. So these arrays are models for rectangular numbers. A rectangular number are numbers that can be represented by rectangular arrays. So for example, 6 is a rectangular number because it creates a rectangular array. Note, each time, each successive rectangular number adds a row and a column by 1. So looking back here, when we increased from 2 to 6, we increased by a whole row and a whole column. There are also square numbers. Square numbers are numbers that can be represented by square arrays. So for example, 9 is a square number because 9 creates a square array. The rule that we use when finding square numbers is to multiply the number by itself. So today we're going to practice drawing arrays for rectangular numbers. Let's practice. I want you to take your piece of paper and draw an array to represent the rectangular number 12. Pause this video, and once you're ready, press play. Welcome back. So when you were drawing this rectangular number 12, you probably drew something like this. I know 12 is a rectangular number because when I drew it as an array, it did not have the same amount of rows as it does columns. This was a 3 by 4 array. Let's try another one. I want you to draw an array for the number 16. After you draw your array, I want you to ask yourself, is 16 a square number or a rectangular number, and how do you know? Pause the video to try to draw this array and think, is it a square number or a rectangular number? So I'm thinking that if I'm drawing an array that has to equal 16, I know I need 16 dots. I can do that by making a 4 by 4 array. When I make a 4 by 4 array, that gives me 16. 16 is a square number. I know that because it has the same number of rows as it does columns. So today we're going to work on identifying square numbers and rectangular numbers. But we're also going to work on identifying these through patterns. So let's take a look. When identifying patterns in rectangular arrays, we often add an increase by rows and by columns. Each time you're increasing by a rectangular array, you increase by 1 row and by 1 column. So let's practice. I want you to draw the next rectangular number that would come in this pattern. Note, each successive rectangular number adds a row and a column by 1. Pause the video and try to draw the next rectangular number array to match this pattern. So when I'm trying to make the next pattern in this rectangular array, I know I need to add 1 row and 1 column. So here I have 1 row, 2 columns, 2 rows, 3 columns, 3 rows, 4 columns, and 4 rows, 5 columns. So you probably thought my next one probably has 5 rows and 6 columns. Your next rectangular number pattern should have looked like this. But now let's think, well, what are these rectangular numbers? To do that, I'm just going to count how many dots I have. So my first one, if it was a 1 by 2, is 2. 2 is my rectangular array, followed by 6, 12, 20, and 30. These are all rectangular numbers because they create rectangular arrays. So today, as you start your Google form, I really want you to ask yourself, is this number a rectangular array or is this number a square array? When you figure that out, that will help you decide whether it's a square number or a rectangular number, and also the patterns that come between there. So let's get started. Good luck.